welcome to this month's Art Club safety training. Today we're going to be talking about fall protection. I'm John Kenney, your host, and I'm always happy to be here, and I want you to get the most out of this you can and use it for your company. So today we're going to cover hazard recognition and safety attitude, OSHA Subpart M, fall protection, identifying incidents and accidents, safety concerns, fall protection. Going to cover ladders, stairs, and scaffolds, and aerial lifts. So first, let's talk about hazard recognition, one of the most important parts when you start a job. So safety attitudes influence your employees' choice of actions and responses. Good workplace safety attitudes are represented by the attentiveness, the eagerness, alertness, and so many other things that go into that. I can't tell you how important this is for all workers to watch out for the hazardous conditions that are going, to be on your job sites. Each worker needs to take care and watch out for each other and hold everyone accountable for their actions. It takes an entire team to keep everyone safe. So we all want to go home safe each day. That's the goal. So it's not one person's job. It is the entire attitude of the team. So at the beginning of each day, the crew needs to go over the job and talk about what each person will be doing and go over any hazards that could be raised. This should be done at your morning daily huddle. Everyone needs to watch for bad workplace safety attitudes, watch for tiredness, risk-taking, recklessness, selfishness, and carelessness, especially near the end of the day. As people get tired and worn out, they get reckless and accidents happen. So you want to have someone to keep an eye on this. Your whole team should be looking out. After working on the same job for multiple days, weeks, or even months in our industry, some people tend to get careless. And when you when you're getting close to completing a project, you tend to take shortcuts. This is especially important time not to let your guard down. It happens. We get more and more comfortable each day we work on a project. So how do you identify workplace hazards? So identifying these hazards is an essential way to preventing injuries in the workplace. This is where it starts. Safety attitude, number one, and then this is number two. It's also an important part of keeping your workplace in compliance with health and safety laws. You can identify workplace hazards by reviewing inspection and injury reports and soliciting feedback from employees. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. Review the operating manuals for all equipment and machinery used on your workplace or job site. Also collect information included in the safety data sheets for all the chemicals that present hazard in your workplace. Workers' compensation reports, inspection reports from insurance carriers and government agencies. Workplace incident reports will contain information very useful for what the workplace risks are most common for what you're doing. Look through these reports and take special note of any patterns or frequently occurring injuries and illnesses among employees very similar to yourself. Great source of information. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to cover just a bit on OSHA. So OSHA was a occupational safety and health act in 1970. So everybody that's come in the industry since that point knows OSHA is a part of life. So really what it was just put into in the sum was to protect workers' safe and healthful conditions on a job site or working anywhere for that matter, for any employee, not just the job site, internally, warehousing, manufacturing, etc. So for you as a roofing contractor, these are the main OSHA subpart fall protection that pertains to you. They're the 1926 sections. They start at 500, go up to 503, subpart M, which is A, B, C, D, and E, and you must constantly go check these out for new updates. So again, you go right up to OSHA.gov, you check these out, you can go there, you can read these for yourselves. But these are an important part of what OSHA is going to come out, whether it's state OSHA or federal OSHA. They're going to come out and you're going to be gauged and judged upon how you're in compliance with these sections. And there may be other, especially in state OSHAs, that exceed these. So I want to identify incidents and accidents. So you want to set up a formal process for employees to report hazards they see. You want to send out you can send out surveys to receive input from workers, set up a safety and health committee. Could be simply your HR or through your project management team, however you want to set it up. I recommend having these little committees. A lot of companies don't take advantage of these, but you have representatives from your workforce in the field, your middle management overseeing it, and even your upper management, as well as possibly HR in there. And it really, really makes you think and take this information and feedback and use it to your benefit, not to have these accidents happen on your projects. Great information. Have employees play an active role in regular safety inspections of work areas, equipment, and operations. If your employees are taking an active role and realize safety is your culture, safety becomes their culture, and it is not a punishment system, but a actual culture that is there to, one, get everybody to work safe, two, to go home safe at the end of the day, and three, do everything within compliance. And there's a few other things as well, but the safety culture is so important. Consult workers before making any major changes to the workplace, including rearranging workstations, reorganizing operations, introducing of new equipment. Ask them to help you identify potential hazards that might emerge. So anytime you make a change, you want to make sure that you are getting all this information out to your employees that are going to be affected by this, so they know if there are changes that need to be made, if the existing processes in place still pertain to this, or if there are any specific risks that they need to be aware of due to any changes. How do you identify workplace hazards? Well, new hazards can enter the workplace as equipment and tools become worn over time as employees enter and leave. During regular inspections, be sure to inspect all operations, equipment, and job site. So at any given time, these things can change. So you want to make sure you do regular inspections of those items. Create a checklist of different types of hazards to look out for during your inspections, such as trip hazards, electrical hazards, equipment operation, fire protection, etc. So create your own checklist that works the most efficiently within your own company with your team. Take photos and videos of hazardous conditions and keep a visual record, which you can then use to come up with solutions and problems and training employees. So this is not taking a safety report of your hazards and use it as a as a punishment tool. This is going out. You could do this prior to a job start or knowing of the things. You're going to be able to look at these things and visually come up with a safety plan to train your employees with. Conduct a thorough review of all close calls and injuries that occur at your job site. You can prevent future accidents from happening by finding out the root cause. So if there is a near miss, or if there's something that happened, or possibility that something could have happened but it was avoided, it's a great time for retraining. You want to revisit this, talk about it, and not just with the crew that it happened to, but get it out to the entire company so that can be avoided in the future. Lessons learned are so important. Fall protection. So falls are among the most common causes of serious work-related injuries and deaths. It's number one. Employees must set up workplace to prevent employees from falling off of overhead platforms, elevated workstations, or holes in floors and roofs. So we fall into all these categories. To prevent employees from being injured from falls, some tips you could do as employers is guard every floor hole, which in our case is going to be roof holes, unless we are climbing up through the interior of a building and these things are there. Remember, everyone is responsible for what they're going through. You can use railing or toe boards or floor hole covers, cover them completely with plywood, and you have that safety over your roof openings. Provide a guardrail or toe board around every elevated opening, side platform, or runway. So again, you cannot have any openings without them being barricaded around or covered completely. Other means of fall protection that may be required on certain jobs include safety harnesses and lines, safety nets, stair railings, and handrails. So there's multiple ways that we'll be discussing that you can go through using. OSHA requires employees to provide working conditions that are free of known dangers. That is on the employer's responsibility. You want to keep your floors and roof areas, work areas clean as far as possible, dry conditions. So again, this not only pertains to your roof environment, it's going to pertain to your warehouse, or any area around your shop that you may have. Select and provide required personal protection, PPE, at no cost to workers. So it is an OSHA requirement as an employer, you are to supply all the required PPE to your workers. Now, note on that, if you have a program, or you should have a program where you're signing these out and they're returning them if damaged, then you replace them at no cost. if they are just being lost or mishandled or are lost because of neglect, you can recharge them for it or have a program, but that all has to be laid out ahead of time. So again, check with your OSHA regulations in your area and see how you can put that program in place. Train workers about job hazards in the language that they can understand. So again, if you have non-English speaking workers, and the reason I say that is because it is not just Spanish in our industry. There are, depending on the area of the country that you're in, there is a multitude of languages that could be native to your workers. So that you're required to train them in their native language if they do not thoroughly understand in the English language. Employers need to plan ahead to get the job done safely. Employers need to develop a plan and ensure proper equipment, materials, and appropriately trained workers are available. You need to know the pitch of the roof and follow the appropriate standard. Low slope is 4 on 12 in less. That goes to 29 CFR 1926, 501B10, right? Go to OSHA, look that up. Steep slope is above 4 on 12. And again, same area, except the last part is subpart B11. So employers must provide the right equipment. You must provide fall protection and the right equipment for the job, including the right kinds of ladders, scaffolds, and safety gear. That is on the contractor. Employers must train workers to use the equipment safely. Employers must train workers in hazard recognition and protecting roofing workers, the care and safe ladder use, scaffoldings, fall protection, and other equipment that we're using. So it's not just sufficient enough to supply all this equipment. You must have an official training program. And I always recommend everybody signs off at the end of this to make sure they understand the training that they've just went through. Understanding the requirements of OSHA fall protection standards to protect your workers exposed to fall 6 feet or more above a lower level. So again, you want to have these trainings in how this fall protection works. And you, as the employer, must understand this in order to get that training out to your workers. Implement safe work practices to reduce the possibility of falls. Supervise workers to ensure fall protection equipment is used and maintained correctly. Lead by example. Employers, project managers, and supervisors should follow the rules they're responsible for enforcing. So if you require hard hats are required, make sure you wear hard hats when you come out onto the job. If it happens to be special feet protection, gloves, whatever it may be on that site, vests, you want a tie off, you need to be exactly as your workers so you get that safety culture and you're not also in violation of the standards. So let's talk a little bit now about safety concerns. Before beginning your job or project, focus on identifying fall protection needs. You want to survey the roof to determine if there are pre-installed anchors available to be used. Caution if they are, you have to make sure that they are of acceptable and to the nature allowed to by OSHA. If not, then you need to plan to identify those systems needed to protect your workers from fall and have them in place before the workers report to the job. So if you're going to use full tie off or whatever, safety rails, whatever that may be, have your plan in place first and make sure safety setup becomes job number one. Guard against falls through skylights and other roof openings. Use guardrail systems, personal fall arrest systems, or protective cover that will support 2 times the weight that may be imposed on at all times. Again, these are within the guidelines, and also your manufacturers of the safety equipment will work with you to come up with exactly what you need for any specific problem or safety hazard you may find on a project. So use your resources and use them wisely. Appropriate footwear is important. Personal protective equipment, PPE, on any construction or roofing site, but it is critical during that roof demolition. Nail, shingle removal, tool injury can cause a worker lose concentration and fall. Again, that means sneakers are not acceptable during a lot of processes. You can use certain slip Slip soles that are sneaker type on when you're doing the single ply roofing. Again, OSHA has all these laid out. Go check for what's in your area of what is appropriate for the type of work you're doing. Workers should be careful of air hoses, power cords, nail guns, or other electrical equipment. The worker steps on one, the hoses or cords can slip underfoot and lead to falls. I've even over my career seen people fall off of roofs by tripping over trip hazards such as an extension cord or other cords. So again, be very careful. Always have that safety mind at presence. Loading and unloading a roof. Loose material and handheld equipment can create tripping hazards on the roof surface. To minimize exposure to fall hazard, you as the employer can stage material so the workers on the roof have quick and safe access. So it goes back to other things besides safety when we talk about processes in place for efficient and safe operations. You want to have a load plan in place. This will eliminate a lot of the hazards that you're going to come up to. While handing materials on the roof, workers should hold the material on the side of his or her body that faces down the slope to prevent being struck by material if they are dropped. So carry something behind you, it slips, it kicks your feet out from under you, to create a fall hazard. Material can also be staged so it cannot slide off the roof and potentially strike workers on the ground. Slide guards can help keep this material from sliding off the roof. Establishing restricted area around project's perimeter can also keep workers out of the danger zone when debris, tools, and material may fall to the ground. This area should be posted with signs and warned. So sometimes, especially if you have the public near your sites, you need to have a danger zone around your projects where somebody cannot get in to your work area perimeter. So again, all these things, you want to have these plans in place. This should be your initial safety plan. So this all falls like natural to you when you hit your job sites. Material hoist. So for worker safety, choose a material hoist company committed to safety and excellence. So if you're hiring somebody from the outside world to do your hoisting, crane operators, make sure that they're fully up. And your professionals 99.9% of the time are. Make sure they have all their paperwork, they have their training, they're up to all the OSHA regulations and everything you need for hoisting up. This includes somebody operating a low lift, besides a crane, or other ways of lifting up with hoisting equipment to your project. So you need to conduct daily hoist inspections using a check sheet for record keeping. Guards on moving parts should be in place. Inspect hooks for deformations or cracks before lifting a load. Test the brake stop and the upper lower limit switches. So again, if you're hiring a contractor outside, like a equipment rental, or somebody was supplying an operator of this equipment, make sure that they have this internal process in place to check everything on a daily basis before lifting actually occurs. You want to check the ropes and chains for wear, stretch for twisting. So if you're using a roof hoist or any other thing, power hoist, whatever that may be, and you're operating it, you're still required to go through checking all these. And I, again, stress having a checklist together so you can always, at the end of the day, have a record that all this has been done, and it becomes part of your job, your daily job record. So most common hoisting hazards is electrocution, when hoist lines, loads, and that come in contact with overhead electrical wires. So again, you want to make sure you're surveying your work site for electrical hazards before you begin work. You got to maintain the proper distances from electrical lines and de-energize them if you must when you work near them. So this is not always just when you're hoisting. Keep this in mind when you're working on a roof. If you got power coming into the building, power arcs 10 to 20 feet. So you've got to take the precautions, either shut the power down or make sure they're properly grounded from your workers, or your workers are from an area beyond where the power is coming in to not have an electrocution. So improper rigging and overloading capacity can cause loads to suddenly fall. So always check and make sure that you're not lifting a capacity higher than whatever your slings are rated for. There's no cuts, tears, etc. And you want to calculate that load weight and use proper amount of rigging and latches to secure it. So again, always do your homework up front, make sure you're doing it safely, and you're going to avoid injuries at the end. Properly set up your hoist so it is a stable ground and secure structure. So again, cranes, you want to make sure that you've got a solid substance, you got your padding, your blocking underneath your outriggers, you're not on soft ground, you're not over top of a septic system, a water tank, gas tank, fuel tank, whatever it may be. When you start to hoist your load, take up the slack slowly and carefully. Hold the load in action for a moment. Watch the stability and balance. So again, whenever you're lifting, whether it is with a hoist, whether it is with a power hoist or a crane or another means, you don't want to just jerk that load up and make sure you want to make sure that everything is rigged correctly and you don't have a problem with a loose connection or overload, twist, bend, whatever that cause a fall or the load to actually collapse onto the ground again. So let's talk about the fall protection part. So personal fall arrest system is the ABCs of that. You have anchorage, you have a body harness, and you have components. Components consist of connectors like snap hooks, D-rings, and lanyards. This is a typical photo of a typical fall protection kit. So you can buy these kits that come with everything that you need to accomplish your fall protection. So fall hazard. So within 6 feet of the roof edge or openings, is the area most concerned when it comes to falls. You must have fall protection if workers are exposed to a fall of 6 feet or more to lower level. One form of fall protection is personal fall arrest system. When used properly, these systems will arrest the fall and prevent the worker from contacting a lower level, such as a ground or another roof level below more than 6 feet. Personal fall arrest system consists of an anchor, a harness, and a lifeline or lanyard, usually with a deceleration device that will break. A PFAS must be used properly to be effective. Adjust the harness to fit snugly. The D-ring attachment of the harness should be centered between the worker's shoulder blades, and the leg strap should be adjusted until they're snug. Fall arrest systems must be designed and set up to prevent a worker from free falling more than 6 feet or contacting a lower level of the ground. So again, make sure you go through proper pre-training of all this and have your workers sign off through your training program, and then you got them out there and they are trained and safe. The anchorage for a fall arrest system must be capable of supporting 5,000 pounds per worker attached to be designed, installed, and used under the supervision of a qualified person. As part of a complete personal fall arrest system that maintains a safety factor of at least 2. During roofing work, it is important not to attach anchors to sheathing, single trusses, and most guardrails. These are typically not strong enough to meet OSHA standard. Instead of attaching the anchors to the sheathing alone, attach the anchor to a structural member by attaching the fastener through the sheathing into the rafter or truss member below. It's important to follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing these. All of these come with proper fastening for different substrates and different conditions and different types of building structures you're going into, including concrete on the walls, etc. So as an employer, you must ensure the fall arrest equipment subjected to the forces of the fall are taken out of service until it has been inspected by a competent person and determined to be undamaged and suitable for reuse. You got to be real careful with this. Sometimes it is not worth putting anything back in reservice. You get new after there's a problem with equipment. So again, if you are planning on putting this type of program in place, make sure you're dealing with a certified safety professional that can do this for you. Ladders, stairs, and scaffolds. So extension ladders. So extension ladders and step ladders are 2 most common types of ladders you're going to find on roofing sites. Employers must ensure the ladders are inspected by a competent person for visible defects on a daily basis prior to each use. Secure footing for all ladders is important. Ladders must be used only on stable and level surfaces unless they are secured to prevent accidental displacement. Again, being level and on solid surfaces are most important, unless they're a fixed ladder going up. You may need to take steps to create a secure footing that will support the ladder without the ladder sinking, shifting, or sliding. So not necessarily you're going to be on site where this condition is going to exist. You may have to make a condition, create a condition that meets these standards. You must always ensure that the areas at the top and bottom of the ladder are kept clear and ladders must not be placed in areas of traffic such as driveways or doorways unless they are secured to prevent accidental displacement and protected from traffic with a barricade. So if there's a doorway and it is locked where it cannot be opened from the inside, and then you have a barricade keeping somebody from coming in from the outside, that usually will meet the standard. But if there is any way you can avoid this simply by moving it, always do that. Workers must maintain 3 points of contact, 2 hands and a foot, or 2 feet and a hand at all times when ascending and descending a ladder. That is why you cannot carry stuff up a ladder and be in compliance. Additionally, workers must not carry anything that can cause them to lose their balance or fall. Extension ladders are set to an angle, so the horizontal distance between the top of the support and the foot of the ladder is approximately 1/4, 25% of the working length of the ladder, a 1-to-4 ratio. The side rails of the ladder generally must extend 3 feet above the upper landing surface that the worker is trying to access. When such an extension is not possible because of the ladder's length, the ladder must be secured at the top with a rigid support that will not deflect or grasping this, such as a grab rail, and must be provided to mounting and dismounting. To clarify that, your ladder must always extend properly, and you need guardrails where it must be. If a ladder does not extend, then you need to find 3 foot or above. Then you need to find another method or get a longer ladder, whatever it may be. But being a foot above the roof does not meet the standard. Step ladders. You cannot lean a step ladder against the wall or anything to work off of. You need to ensure that workers are using step ladders in the fully open position. Workers must not use the top of the step, the very top of the step ladder as a step. Doing so could lead to serious injury. I've seen these ladders used so wrong on so many projects. This says here, they're not meant to lean up against unopened to get to the next level. Use a step ladder correctly or you will have injury or fines. Scaffoldings. Scaffoldings must be designed by a qualified person and must be constructed to load it. What I want to say on this is if you are not a scaffolding installation company or specifically have trained your employees to be a scaffolding erector, it is always best to go outside to a competent company that can erect these scaffolds for you, but you still will need to do the daily inspections that everything is correct. Again, safety is of the utmost importance, and if you're not qualified to set scaffolding up, you will be in violation of this. So know that. Workers are the most vulnerable to fall hazards when climbing on or off of a scaffold. Therefore, you need to provide safe scaffold access. When scaffold platforms are more than 2 feet above or below point access, workers must use portable ladders, hook-on ladders, attachable ladders, stair towers, or other ways that are meet the OSHA standards to get on and off of these surfaces. Workers must ensure that each platform on all working levels of scaffolds are fully planked and decked between the front uprights and guardrail positions. Space between adjacent platform units and the space between the platform and the uprights can be no more than 1 inch wide, except where the worker can demonstrate that a wider space is necessary. So that would be way outside the norm that you would be able to demonstrate it's necessary. So again, use the 1 inch as your standard. Workers must ensure the scaffold is more than 10 feet above the lower level or protected from falls. Workers often use guardrails to provide this protection. Guardrails used to comply with OSHA's fall protection requirements for scaffolds must be installed along all open sides or ends and the ends of the platforms. Generally, the top rails must be installed between 36 or 38 and 45 inches above the platform surface, depending on the type and age of the scaffold. Top rails, so depending on where you're getting your scaffold from, 36 is your minimum and 45 is usually your maximum that you can find. Top rails must be able to withstand, without failure, a force applied in a downward or horizontal direction at any point along the top edge of that rail, at least 100 pounds for single point and 2-point adjustable suspension scaffolds, and at least 200 pounds for all other scaffolds. When mid rails are used, employers must ensure that they are installed at a height approximately midway between the top of the rail and the platform surface. So let's talk about aerial lifts. We'll wrap up with this. Workers can use aerial lifts to work at the edge of a roof while standing in a lift basket. Employers must only permit authorized workers to operate extensible and articulating boom lifts. So again, you have to be trained. Not everyone can just jump in these and take off. Workers must ensure that controls for extending and articulating arms are tested daily before the use, that they're functioning safely. With respect to this type of booms and lifts, employers must ensure that all workers stand firmly on the basket floor, do not sit or climb on the edge of the basket, or use planks or ladders or other devices work position. Workers must be tied off to the boom or basket. So you must be tied off with fall protection, the same as you would be in any other instance on a roof. You cannot just be in the basket and be able to fall out. You cannot put a ladder and extend up to work out of. Can't put a platform across the top of it to get up to the extra height. They have to be used what they're intended for. And again, everyone has to be trained properly and have a sign off on your training. So what were the key takeaways today? So again, first of all, you got to start out with a safety culture. This plays a critical role in maintaining a positive safety attitude and recognition of hazards and preventing all workplace accidents. Start with the culture, absolutely important. Then you must adhere to the OSHA subpart M's that we talked about. Go there, read them, understand them. Make sure that your safety program takes all those into consideration when you develop it and train on it. Proactive hazard management, early identifications of fall risks, regular safety inspections, and employee involvement in safety processes is the key to your success to have safe daily workspace. So again, you must do your pre-planning, pre-job check, regularly inspect for safety issues, and have your employees be involved in the process and police the action and come up with solutions and feedback for you. Effective use of equipment. All equipment has a purpose, just like all roofs have a purpose. Not every roof is meant for every purpose. Same goes with your fall protection, your ladders, and other safety equipment and lifts. Use them as they are intended to be used. And continuous safety education. It is so important that you do trainings like these on a monthly basis, have your toolbox talks, have your yearly training meetings, mid-year meetings, whatever it takes in your company to keep your workers safe. The greatest investment you can make in your company is on safety. You want to have everyone come home safe and sound each and every day. And once you get the company with safety culture, it is one of the best recruiting tools in the industry. So again, I want to thank you for attending today's safety talk, and we'll see you on the next one.